for something a little different. This is something I just picked up recently. It's a 1/48 scale Hobby Boss T-34. What makes this one a little bit different is full interior. So let's have a quick look. Instructions, which are actually quite a lot there because we're doing the full inside tank. Callouts, and look at all these sprues. Okay, now that doesn't even include the hull and the upper and lower hull, and this very interesting combined photo etch and plastic engine grill, which they've already put the photo etch on for you, and some proper copper wire for a tow cable, so that's really good. So yeah, as is my usual, I'm going to do a review on this, but I'm actually going to do a build as well. And if you've noticed something I've already done here, I've already drawn a little bit on the tank, because what I intend to do is a cutaway. Okay, so I'm going to build this with a full interior, but I'm going to cut off most of it, and I've got a very interesting way. This is an experiment, that's why I'm using this little kit to display this, something a bit different. So yeah, let's have a look at the kit. Alright, instructions. It's a really weird pull-out instruction that just seems to go everywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you've got to pull out this another big one. Alright, but basically we're talking about a full-size, full internal, so all the suspension, all the insides of the lower hull, the ammunition racks, the radio racks, everything from the internal, the driver and the machine gunner, you know, it's all there. So it's quite a detailed set of instructions. As you can see, you've got the internals here, and so if you did this as a normal tank, you're not going to see almost any of that. You might see this man's seat, and you might see this if the hatch is open, that's it. Beautifully detailed engine, complete engine, the big V12 thing there, and the transmission, and the radiators. I mean, it all goes in there, and again, if you built this as normal, you wouldn't see any of this unless you pop the back hatch, which I'll show in a minute. Okay, so moving on, you got there you go, there's a full internal, the radiators, and then to the upper hull. Okay, there's a main hatch here, which is tiny, right? So even if you remove that, you can't see much, and then there's another hatch here. Again, if you remove, you still can't see much. And then there's an access one at the back that gives you a little bit more of a view. Front hatches. Okay, again, even if you have that open, which is open at the horizontal, you're not going to see much. And then we put it all together. It's even got the details on the inside of the glasses plate. On top, I've seen this done where someone's put magnets in the corners, and you can just lift the thing up and top, so that's an interesting way to do it. This is a very good idea. They've included a track jig for your tracks. And then we move on to the turret internal. So there's the main gun, which is very well detailed, one-piece barrel, and the very, very, very tight turret with the Mickey Mouse ear hatches. So again, if you did this the conventional way, had the hatches fully open, you're still not going to see much. And then, plonk, we put it on. So that's the instructions. I've gone through them. They look fairly easy to understand. There's a few YouTube videos out there for you to follow how to build it. There's only one call out, and they don't even give you the colours. They'd say X. Okay, for the Russian ground, here they go, H135. I'm going to use something different, of course. So even though there's only one call out, the decals they give you actually have, you know, I think that's a captured German one there, and there's all these other symbols. I've got no idea, so yeah, do a bit of research on that, but there's no other markings or things on the kit itself. So, quick sprue tour, just to give you an idea of the size of this. I mean, here's my hand, okay, there's, let's have a look. For reference, you know, there's a Tamiya Extra Thin bottle, it's not that big, okay, it's not even as tall as one of those. So, yeah, it's quite a small tank as is. I remember I built this in 1/35 scale, so I know a fair bit about it in terms of what it is. But my intention is, if you can see the cuts there, is I'm going to do basically a 50-50. So imagine you cut it vertically through the center there, okay? But instead of it being a dissection, I'm going to have things hanging out the other side. So this side will be, if we look at it from here, or let's have a look at the instructions. If you look at it from this way, you'll see a complete tank, okay? But when you look at it from the other way, I'm going to have most of this exposed, and then most of this on top exposed. So you'll actually be able to see into the engine, into the back here, and I'm going to take away the turret side as well, and have the hatches open. So have as much open as possible, but plausible. Yeah. So I'm looking at this, there is a bit of flash. There's quite a bit of flash there, actually. That's a huge amount just off there. But overall, the molding quality is pretty good. It looks like it won't have too much trouble getting together. Yeah, nothing much to really note there. In terms of the sprues, I've had a good look at all the parts. They are very well detailed, and they have to be, because it's it's full internal. There are a few injector pin marks here and there, but I'm going to get around that by either just not including it or just covering it over. So yeah, that's the internals. Some of the sprue gates are a bit big, might be a bit of a challenge, but we'll see how we go. Here are the tracks, and here's that jig they give you to do the thing. I'm only going to do tracks on one side. I might only just put a couple of tracks on the other side. No injection pin marks on the Lincoln lengths. Nope. So that'll be good. That'll be real easy to put together. Then we get the turret, which they have. And if you've seen photos of, I've got photos of a SU-100 and a T-34 85. These things, the steel on these was absolute rubbish. It was just, it's got a few scratches and dimples in it, but I might put a bit of Mr. Surfster on that, because yeah, the steel they used to make these was just junk. And so there's the weld marks on it are really, really crude. I've seen it up close. It's just, it's shockingly bad, but you've got to remember they're under a bit of stress then. Jones at the door, and last one is wheels, which look pretty good. Okay, and yeah, let's have a quick look at this. Hopefully I won't lose it. I'm going to have to cut this in half, but okay, if you can see that, we'll get over there. Okay, so the photo etch has already been put on. It's already been moulded inside the thing. I've never seen that before, so that looks really good. So I'm going to cut that in half there. Get a couple of lenses and some proper copper wire for a tow rope, so it's really good. So let's get stuck into it. I've successfully, I think, cut it in half. So let's have a quick look. Okay, so that's basically what's left of the upper hull, and this is the lower hull. The engine's just sitting in there, so that might fall out if I tip that over. But as you can see, that's going to be the view from the side. Okay, I haven't put there's supposed to be seats and controls and so forth in here. I'll put them in next. But basically what I had to do with this is I had to build most of it to actually work out what I was going to do with it, because there's no point saying, well, I'm just going to cut a little bit here and there, and then you've done it, you build it, then you can't see anything. So basically I've had to do a bit of planning and a bit of building at the same time to see what gets exposed. So if I just go have a look around, see that, you see that? Okay, so you can see from the top angle, you can see the top of the engine, you can see the transmission, you can see the gearbox to the drive sprockets there. Oops, take that off. And then from the side, yeah, you can see all the engine bay and so forth. So yeah, so I'm pretty happy with that so far. That didn't take a long time to do. It was a bit of fiddling here and there. The top half is almost done. I'm going to have this hatch, the main hatch, at the vertical, so it'll be sitting upright like that. This photo etch one I was able to cut nice and cleanly through there, and the main plate. I'll have this hatch there as well, but it'll be flopped open. Same with this hatch here. Try to keep everything open. So yeah, I've just got a few little details to fill in here and a few in here to do that, and then that's bit finished. And then the turret. Okay, same thing here. I had a principle to cut the side out first, and I think it's going to work. I haven't built the inside yet, so I'll build the main cannon and the seats. So the Mickey Mouse hatches there, they'll be to the vertical as well. But yeah, let's just put that together quickly, and then I'll get onto it. So it's going to sit like that. Okay. So if you're looking at from the top view, you're going to see that. See if I can do this without it falling over. And from the side view, you're going to get that. So it is a bit of a dissection. Okay, and the way I'm going to display this, I hinted at it earlier, and I hope it's going to work because I've got the idea in my head for about 2 or 3 other projects. Is what I'm basically going to do is have this on an easel, a glass easel, and instead of the tank being just on a flat base, I mean, here's my table here, it's actually going to be raised up probably a good 6 inches, 15 centimeters above the ground, and I'm going to have a clear acrylic sheet going through the vertical there as an easel with a cutout in the middle where the tank will sit, and then I'll have a nice wooden base below. So you'll actually look at it and it'll be suspended up in the air, so anyone who's walking past at eye height can actually see directly, and you don't have to hunch down, because that's the whole point of that exercise, of cutting that all there. So what's the next stage? Well, next stage, I need to finish the turret. I need to finish the few bits that are left on the top hull and underneath here, like I said. And since I've built most of this, even though it's all loose, all I need to do here, take these bits out. I might paint some of these parts separately before putting them in. So I might just take, oops, he's a bit tight. I might put the remainder of the seats and controls here, glue them in, and then my plan is I'm going to prime this using Stynylrez Res, which is my preferred primer, but it comes in different colours. And the interior on these, I believe, was off-white, so I'm just going to do the primer in off-white and then weather it straight away. Weather and do the little detail paints. With the engine and the transmission, I'll prime that in a dull black grey colour, and then detail paint and weather it. And same with the inside of the turret, do the white as well. So that hopefully, and also the inside of the upper hull. You're not going to, no, you might see some of it, don't know. Then the next trick, of course, is the outside colour. And again, Stynylrez Res comes to the rescue there because they do a green. So I'm going to mix and match some green, Russian green 4BO, I think they call it. Try to get the right sort of colour palette, because all I'm going to do is prime and paint it in one go. And then go to it, weather it. I'm going to do mainly weathering with oils and enamels. So very easy to control. I don't have to worry about overspray and doing modulation with an airbrush, having to mask and demask and unmask and all that sort of rubbish. Yeah, and the last thing to do, just need to make the wheels and tracks on one side, and that looks like it shouldn't be too hard as well. And I'll prime and paint and weather them separately and put them on. So yeah, let's get back into that stage, and I'll see you soon. Okay, so I finished construction. It took a long time to build this. It's quite fiddly and quite a lot of parts. As you can see, I've completed the front fighting compartment. Okay, with the seats and all the control levers, and I've done the tracks. The tracks were a bit of a pain. I used the Harry Houdini method of Revell contactor glue on double-sided tape. And I followed the instructions, and it was at least 2, probably 1 link short. I had to put 3 in, and that's why it's going to be quite loose. So I'll have to compress that when it's finished, because the way that T-34 tracks work, they have one with a tooth, one without. That's quite economical. But yeah, once I have set the sag on that, but once it's squeezed together and glued, it'll look fine. And the wheels are just popped on, whereas the torsion bars, or the whatever those bars are, they're put on properly, they're glued in. So yeah, so that's done. So lower hull is finished, and the only thing to note really with the lower hull, well, actually the whole kit, okay, it does fit together quite well once you put in the effort of removing a fair bit of flash here and there, and opening up locating pin holes and just taking a little bit of spare time. You can't, this is not a Tamiya kit, you can't just go cut off the sprue, sand a little bit of the sprue number way, click together with a tiny bit of glue. You do need to spend a little bit of time just working out how it goes together and just yeah, being patient. It's a top quality kit, it's really good, but just I don't know, maybe the molds are a bit old or something, but the parts just need a little bit of work just to get together. So yeah, the upper hull is finished, and I've done the tow cable as well. There's supposed to be some straps on these spare track links here, but I'm not going to put them on because even though I have cut this up to buggery, excuse the French, I have cut it in half. I'm going to do this out of the box. I'm just going to do, this is what you can do with the kit without doing any add-ons or anything. So yeah, that's done, and the parts on the inside, again, they all fit quite well. I was able to put the hatch in there, so let's see how the hatch is at the horizontal. Oop, let's do it this way, Chris. Okay, as if he was driving, you know, not under fire. And the main gun, that was not the best fit in the world. It's engineered well. Some of these parts just click together, but just the fit was just really bad. And the inside of the turret. Okay, so the turret's going to look nice. Unfortunately though, with the turret's going to be there's the cutout, so that's what it's going to look like from the cutout, and those two hatches are going to be open at the vertical. The problem with the turret is the gun itself, the way you have to install it. You just can't glue it all together, prime, paint. You have to prime, paint separately, glue it in, paint, and finish like that, because it's got a multi-part mantlet. Okay, so it's got all these covers that won't go on each other and glue together from the start. You've got to do it piece by piece. And talking about doing aftermarket, there's the V12 engine, and there's the ignition cores, I guess you could say. There's supposed to be wires running between each of the cylinders, and actually if you look down from the top you will see that, but yeah, with the air cleaner on top, you're really not going to see much at all, so we'll leave that out. So yeah, overall, if you're just going to build this as a kit, as is, you know, you're not going to cut it in half, it's going to come out really nice. And if you don't want to go to the full expense of building every single part, because there's quite a few parts. I mean, this kit has got more parts than most 135 tanks. It's got probably about 3 times as many parts as a typical Tamiya 135, so it's going to take a while. I mean, I haven't added up my construction time, but it's at least a dozen hours, at least. So, and I bought this kit for $18. So it's, you know, it's cheap hobby. I don't get why people keep saying this is an expensive hobby. Not by the hour, it's not. So yeah, getting back to if you're just going to build this out of the box without doing a cutaway, there are a couple of things. You can do some shortcuts. You don't have to build everything inside. You know, you can get away with just having the engine on its mounts, and you might see it through its, if you've got the main hatch open. You can build some of the seats. Maybe just build the driver's seat, and if you're going to have a driver in there. And with the turret, there's not that many parts. It looks like there's a lot, but it doesn't take long to do all that, and it'll look good if you have a hatch open. So yeah. So my next stage for this particular one is I'll finish this video here, and I'm going to start a new video, and I'll show you how I'm going to paint and weather this one. So stay tuned.